The organized private sector has expressed concern about the spate of looting of trucks conveying food and raw materials by suspected hoodlums, warning that it could lead to a shutdown of the industries across the country. Members of the organized private sector gave the warning yesterday, Monday, as miscreants attacked trucks conveying building materials and spaghetti in Ogun and Kaduna State. Several trucks and warehouses, mostly owned by manufacturers and members of the OPS, have come under attack from hoodlums as the food inflation and the cost of living crisis worsened across the country. Last week, some youths stole food items from trucks stationed in the traffic along the Kaduna Road in Suleja area of Niger State. And just on Sunday, hoodlums attacked a warehouse belonging to the Agriculture and Rural Development Secretariat of the Federal Capital Territory Administration, located in Dede area of the FCT, where they looted rice, grains, and other relief materials. Also on Monday, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the last general elections, Peter Obi, said it was disturbing and disheartening that a war-hit country like Ukraine is now donating food to Nigeria. Obi made this assertion in a statement via his verified X handle, formerly called Twitter, where he recalled that the government of Ukraine recently donated 25,000 tons of wheat as emergency food assistance to 1.3 million vulnerable crisis-affected people in Nigeria's northeastern region. This development comes amidst the food price and economic hardship that are currently being experienced in the nation. Obi said it was disheartening that Nigeria, which was once an economically confident nation, blessed with vast arable land and abundant natural resources, now relies on war-torn Ukraine for food assistance. But the big question on the big story for today, is it a failure on the part of governments and the citizens that the nation that is well blessed with arable land is now thrown into hunger and chaos and now a beggar of food from other nations? Well, this and more, as it concerns this, is what this edition of the big story is all about. And we're talking about the present food crisis in the country and ways to address it. That's what we're having as a major one today on the big story. We're talking about the present food crisis in the country, where we hear chaos, looting, and also breaking into warehouses, and what needs to be done to address it. But anyway, he's right here to address the issue. And we're not talking of no other person, but a social critic, and funny enough, a farmer. And I will do justice to it. And I'm talking of Comrade Francis Noafe. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Yeah, good morning.
Now, I want us to first start with the unfortunate action of some Nigerians that attacked a food truck both in Ogun and Kaduna yesterday, adding to the previous attacks on private and government entities and businesses. Now, some persons were speculating if we were deep in food crisis, but what happened yesterday and all that have been happening, we're now being faced with the reality. Yes, we do know we now have food crisis in our hands. But I want your reaction as it concerns that yesterday attack and previous attacks, and how dangerous it is to our economy that is already on its knees.
Yes, of course. As a matter of fact, we are totally submerged in the issue of food crisis in Nigeria, because this thing did not just start today. It has been there, but this time around, this is at its worst. Because when a nation like Nigeria that is having 200 million inhabitants, if not more than 200 million inhabitants, then living in such food crisis is a concern to the entire world. Because, for instance, here in Ukraine, a war-torn country donating grains to Nigeria, why are they doing it? They know Nigeria is now a threat to other neighboring countries, not only even in Africa here, but in Europe, in Asia, and in America. Because by the time this thing extends beyond what it is today, Nigerians will begin to go out seeking asylum in other countries. So it is really disheartening. And where we are right there, the government refused to do something about it. And it goes beyond this. I tell you, we don't even know the next thing that will happen in this very country.
Anyway, as much as you've said that, we were fortunate also yesterday, in the evening, to get the reaction of the president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industries, and I'm talking of no other person but Mr. Gabriel Idausa, to react to also this ugly incident that happened yesterday. And his reaction is not far-fetched, where he said the current economic hardship was ushering in anarchy. And according to him, the attacks can worsen the problems of companies and even lead to them shutting down. That's what he said. Now, for me, I'm also forced to ask, it looks as if the chicken has come home to roost. And the reason I say this, do you feel the government's inability for proper farm or agricultural policies and also a beautiful business climate over the years by successive administration is the reason we are neck deep?
No, you can't really say successive administration, because one thing is common with our government and act of governance. They always trade blames. You know, talking about the successive government. When Buhari was there, he traded blame. He said that the PDP was the one that plundered the economy. That Jonathan did not do well. He was there for 8 years. Are you not? Is Tinubu now saying that the APC failed during their tenure, and the APC is the one still in government?
But we're hearing reports centered on that the recent hardship being orchestrated or having been faced by Nigeria is not just by the direct policies of this administration, but that of the previous.
No.
And many felt he put the economy. Former CBN governor, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, also came out a couple of weeks back to say so. Our present senator representing Edo North in the Senate, Comrade Adam Shomole, also hinted that the economy went to a nosedive under the last administration.
These are just mere assertions. For instance, you have a manifesto. You are coming in as a president of the nation. Somebody should vote for you as a president of a nation. You have your own manifesto. That is to say, you have your economic planning committee in readiness even before coming to become a president, because you have your governorship candidates, your senatorial seats, your house of rep. You have your own group. You have your plans. You know who you are going to appoint when you get into government, or into the house of government. Then, when you have all these things in readiness, you should have your own plans. That when I become the president of the nation, this is what I'm going to do. For instance,
so are you hinging the whole blame on the table of the
why not? Don't you have a plan? Because
if 9 months not too short,
no, it's not too short
for a turnaround.
The first day when
especially looking at the damage that had been done to the economy.
When he said on May 29, when he said the fuel subsidy is gone, you mean he doesn't have a plan before pronouncing it? Because when you are pronouncing it on that very day, fuel subsidy is gone, that is to say you have plans on ground that you want to hit the ground running. Now you pronounce it that fuel subsidy is gone. There is nothing to ameliorate. There is nothing to serve as a shock absorber. You just say fuel subsidy is gone. You don't do things that way. If you want to come in as a president, you have your economic team. Let them go straight to work to know what to do, because you believe that the past administration didn't do well. That is why you are campaigning that you want to take over as a president of the nation. So when you take over, you should be able to write off most of the ills, most of the economic lapses you are supposed to fill in. Now you came in as a president, you are not trading blame. Then why did you ever come in as a president? If you say 9 months is too short for him to be criticized, so we should suffer till 4 years before we start complaining? No.
Okay, now let's return back to the question. Undermining you feel or you have your strong reservation against that statement. Then let me rephrase my question there to bring a more proper understanding. Now, do you feel also, as much as you hinge the blame on this administration for its own ill economic policy as a direct result of this, but you will also agree with me that this problem did not just start now?
Yes.
It came about way even back into the Jonathan era, when we had insecurity in the northeast region.
Yes.
And we had farmers being killed on account of going to farms.
Yes.
And it only skyrocketed under the last administration.
Yes.
When we've had herders and farmers clashes, and we had the issue of banditries taking over vast majority of land, and even going ahead to tax these farmers before they can go to farm. So let's look at all the genesis as it transcends all the way from the last 10 or 12 years.
Okay,
would you now say that irrespective of whether you hinge the blame on this administration for its lack of policy, but when it comes to the issue of food and the availability of food it is a problem that has been coming over years.
Disagree.
And that's why I said it looks as if the chicken has come home.
No, I beg to disagree.
Okay, let's go.
Because you have a bad manager managing your business. You relieved him of his position. You bring him another manager, and he's doing worse. Are you going to say that because the past manager was not doing well?
So was it not hurtful? Did we not get any major hurts coming from the last administration?
Yeah, they were.
To this present crisis?
Are you not saying, I'm sorry, are you not saying that campaign is a propaganda? If you say that I'm taking over the realm of power, definitely you have the power and the capacity to solve the problems on ground. That is the reason why you're campaigning.
Were there problems on ground?
There were problems, but they were not as this. The food issue in Nigeria has never come to this point where people begin to looting agricultural warehouses, looting trucks.
But in 2020, we saw that same loot during the palliative issue of COVID-19.
That was during the period of COVID-19 where restrictions were there. There were a lot of restrictions, you know what I'm talking about. But this time around, if you are coming, you remember during the campaign during the presidential campaign, Peter Obi was saying that even the so-called Sambisa forest will be turned to agrarian zone. That will make sure that agriculture takes over. Now it comes in now. What are the policies put in place, especially?
So are you going to hinge all of this on this present administration?
Yes, of course.
Now you brought in Peter Obi, and I feel we need to go there because he had a lot to say yesterday on account of, or rather in his reaction to the donation of 25,000 tons of wheat as emergency food assistance to 1.3 million vulnerable crisis persons in the country. Now, being said, I'd rather go to what he said. I like taking it out of context. I don't want to sound as if I took it out of context. So I'd rather go to his statement. Now, being said, while the gesture from Ukraine was laudable, it speaks volume as to the failure of the Nigerian government to cater for its people. Obi said it was disheartening that Nigeria, with a vast arable land and abundant natural resources, now relies on a war-torn Ukraine for food assistance.
All right.
That's what he said.
Okay.
But in your own view, do you think Nigerians are very interested in farming? Or other factors are the reason the vast arable of lands are not being used? Factors like insecurity, unavailability of the required seedlings, and other factors that will enhance farming. You are a farmer, and I really want to understand why we have, just like he said, vast arable land, and yet we are looting trucks.
Good. I love that question. See, this problem of farmers is all over the world.
So do you feel Nigerians are not?
Let me come from that. You said you are talking about issue of interest.
Okay.
You knew what happened in Poland, in Ireland.
Yeah, when they had recent riot against
by
the importation of food.
Their welfare is not
being looked at.
Yes, being looked at. And the cost of food price is even low over there. They started complaining because, and the Prime Minister of UK, you saw when he was addressing farmers, saying that they want to even go into a robotic agriculture to assist farming in UK, to relieve them of the much burden of farming. You saw people protesting in Poland that the grain being imported from Ukraine to Poland is hurting their market. Yes, hurting their market.
But we need the grain, though.
You understand me? Excuse me.
Yeah.
Now, what makes them to be complaining is because of the package. So farmers ordinarily, today now I'm a farmer, right? We were farming in the 70s, in the 60s, in the 50s. Now let me come back now. In the 90s, even in the early 2000s, the issue of food crisis was never there.
Yeah.
Why now? Because the insecurity is one of the problems we're experiencing today in Nigeria. Because especially in the northeast, and also even in the northeast, northwest,
and north central,
where most of the, which is the food basket of the nation, has been truncated by insecurity. So if you talk about whether Nigerians are interested, no one will dare go to the farm, risking his life.
So it's not a matter of not being interested.
They are interested,
but rather the former I mentioned, insecurity and other factors.
They are looking at insecurity. So they believe that this man coming in, Tinubu coming in, will solve the problem of insecurity. That is the reason why they tell you all over the world that politicians can never solve economic problem. That is just their campaign.
But we're having growth in the UK, and Sunak seems to be doing a lot.
Yes, and I know where I'm going.
We're having it.
No, it's because of no. If Sunak is doing well today, because of the institution there, they have a strong institution which no politician, even in Europe and in America, can bypass.
Okay,
so in Africa, because
Europe, come back to Africa.
Let's come back to Africa. Politicians in Africa, they will never solve the problem of agriculture. Why? Because they believe in much comfort. Now you are telling Nigerians to go into the bush, to farm and bring in food. You don't care about their security. Yet you guide yourself with enough security. So it's because of insecurity. That is why this thing is coming to this point of hunger in the land. Insecurity. Because the food that is coming from
so you now agree with me
the northwest is no longer available.
You now agree with me that the factors responsible for it did not just generate under this administration.
Did not just generate, but we expected this administration to look into it and try to provide solutions to it. But they are not providing solutions to it. Rather, it's getting worse.
And
so it's failing already.
It will not be worse for us to talk more about it, but I'll plead with you to hold on. We need to go on a break now. And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion as we look at the present food crisis and better ways to address it. As we take a critical look, looking at the present anarchy that seems to be in the land with the looting of food trucks all over the country. And what many are saying, you can tell the people to wait, but can you tell their hungry tummy to do so? Well, I don't know. A question later. Let's go on a break.